Alright, hello everyone. Today I'm going to be doing a video basically going over the Season 23 meta, which is kind of just all support meta right now. It's basically just a massive invincibility shield meta where you have Lifeline's big ultimate shield, 𝗙𝗲𝘁𝗂𝗍𝗂's dome shield, and 𝗦𝘂𝗂𝗁𝘂𝗀𝗀's mobile shield. All basically in play just because you cannot really destroy them, well, they are indestructible. But also things like 𝗦𝘂𝗁𝘁𝗂's revive shield and stuff like that having so much health that makes it practically impossible to actually kill these characters. Obviously, in addition to all the new perks that they also got this season. So yeah, basically want to talk about what this meta basically is doing to the game, as well as some solutions to make the game better, whilst also having, support around for a season or so. I just want to give you guys some observations as well. Obviously, you guys know that last season was the season of the Akimbo weapons, otherwise known as the 𝗦𝘂𝗯𝘂𝗃 and the P20. And then eventually towards the end of the season, or like pretty much almost to the end of the season, they then nerfed the 𝗦𝘂𝗯𝘂𝗃 just because of how good it was. Now I think they've done the same approach here as well, where they've basically just took all the support characters, obviously because they've added Lifeline Reborn, and have just buffed the hell out of all of them. In a way, just to kind of go, right, okay, everyone, all these characters are now insanely good, play them, we're going to completely switch the meta up, and then in a few months, we're going to completely switch the meta again. And a part of me actually really likes that, because I'm more of a casual player. However, I do see why some pro players do not like that, because it completely changes the meta so quickly, and it's kind of like an annoying meta as well, where you have like characters that just have unbreakable shields. So if you don't have one of them characters on your team, you are not gonna win. And so I see where the complaints are coming from, but at the same time I actually really like how the meta is changing so rapidly. Also as well, another observation that I have seen now is that because Lifeline has had her rework, it's actually made something very clear, and that is all of the support characters, all their abilities are all tied around the colour blue, which is something that you might not have thought about before. Like, for example, 𝗙𝗲𝘁𝗂𝗍𝗂's bubble, it's blue. Loba's tactical, it's blue. Mirage's decoys, they're all got blue outlines. Lifeline's new ult, it's blue. Well, it's kind of like greeny blue, but you know what I mean. Then obviously 𝗦𝘂𝗁𝘁𝗂's shield's blue, Conduit's shield blue. And I don't know whether it's on purpose or not, but it really does show me that the developers obviously are paying a little bit of attention to make it a little bit easier to understand what's happening in a fight, where you can essentially see some blue abilities and go, right, okay, that's a support character, that's who we need to kill first. And so it will be pretty interesting to see if that gets embedded to other classes, because obviously we have 4 other classes, and that isn't the case right now. If all scans were purple instead of red or for whatever, we could see it happen to other classes, but as of right now, that obviously is not the case. It's only for the support class. But I do want to go over some buffs and nerfs for some of the support characters specifically in this video to kind of balance the class out a little bit, because it's really one-sided right now in the support class. And I really like playing support characters as well. I think it is one of the most fun classes in the game. But right now, they've really buffed the fuck out of some characters, and they've kind of overshadowed the others. So I firstly want to say it's actually alright. I don't think it's much of a problem that we have infinite health on the abilities. I think it's alright. It does actually make it so the abilities are very supportive. But the cooldowns are definitely a problem. They've done the infinite HP on, like, 𝗙𝗲𝘁𝗂𝗍's bubble, 𝗦𝘂𝗁𝘁𝗂's shield, Lifeline's shield as well. But the cooldowns are so low. Like, 𝗙𝗲𝘁𝗂's bubble is 16 seconds. 𝗦𝘂𝗁𝘁's is like 15 as well. These should both go up to like 20 to 25 or maybe 30 seconds again. Because that is the main problem. That's what people are really complaining about. Just having like constant shields that have infinite health. Now with that, I would say that 𝗙𝗲𝘁 does require a little bit more help in the support department, because I do think that the revive speed and the bubble is not very helpful enough. I do think a 2 times revive speed will be pretty cool, like how, Lifeline has her 2 times healing speed for all teammates inside her little, like, Halo ultimate. I think it would be good if 𝗬𝗲 has a 2x revive speed inside his ultimate, giving 𝗬𝗲 a little bit more of a revive element, support element there. I also think potentially we could also add, for 𝗬𝗲 specifically, a buff to his arm shield, where it kind of acts like Reinhardt from Overwatch, where if someone's nearby, then it kind of extends outwards and protects them teammates as well, but of course has a little bit more health just to combat that, but obviously it's bigger, so it's easier to shoot from the enemy's perspective. But overall, it would obviously support them teammates to get a bat off and stuff like that, protecting them simply as like a little shield in front of them. So yeah, that was 𝗬𝗲 right there. I want to also go into Mirage right now. So I do think Mirage needs quite a lot of support help right now. So I think the first thing is really easy. He needs some sort of additional revive or something like that. I've previously made concepts in the past for something called a decoy revive. So of course, Mirage has his passive where you can, camouflage revive. But I think you should have a second revive, a customized revive, where you can essentially use the tactical, lock onto a teammate, and then shoot a decoy over there. And obviously the decoy runs over to your teammate, and then proceeds to revive them. The decoy will not be cloaked though, so enemies can actually shoot the decoy and stop the revive, but it would allow for like kind of mobile revives without even being nearby. Whereas, Lifeline, you have to actually click X on someone to initiate that revive. As Mirage, you won't even have to be in the vicinity. You can just click on wherever the down person is and send the decoy out to revive them. And that'll give the tactical a lot more power, supportive power precisely, because he's in the support class. He should have a bit more power with that. But I think another thing as well, I think if decoys that have got shot, it should also give teammates and yourself heals. So if like a decoy got shot, it would give everyone on the team 25 health, whether it's shield or HP, whatever they need essentially. And at least that would give a little bit less of an incentive to just shoot random decoys. And as well, when you activate your own ultimate, you can potentially just heal your entire team of all their health as well if people start shooting all the decoys. So yeah, it's actually pretty good in that sense. Then we also have 𝗏𝗲 as well, so just the same as like 𝗬𝗲 and his like arm shield have like an additional use, as well as Mirage and his additional revive that he gets with the decoys. I also kind of thought down the same pathway with 𝗏𝗲's tactical, where just like Mirage's decoy with the reviving, if you have a teammate that is quite far away and is also losing a lot of health rapidly, you can essentially grab the teammate and pull them towards you, like Liveweaver of Overwatch. Now, this is an area of, obviously, a lot of complaints and issues and stuff like that. It's an area of contention, because people don't want to get grabbed whilst they're trying to fight someone, and especially if they got someone very low. And so there needs to obviously be some type of confirmation or something between the person trying to grab them, so 𝗏𝗲, and also the person who is very low on health. Whatever that is, I don't know, but obviously the developers, if they were to add this, would have to consider that as well. And the last support character, 𝗏𝗂𝗁, I think is in actually a very good spot now, especially after the new update, because the new update gave her something that I think a lot of people kind of overlooked, and that is the new passive with her running towards teammates passive, where in fact it now works on downed teammates, also running towards replicators to craft banners, as well as respawn beacons to respawn teammates in. That is very supportive, and that was a big issue for 𝗏𝗂𝗁, as I didn't feel like, apart from her tactical, she was very much of a support character. I've always kind of had a little bit of a pattern with every single character in the game, where whatever class they are in, they should really have two abilities that fit into that class. And 𝗏𝗂𝗁 only had one, and that was that she can basically heal teammates. The running passive, where you run towards a teammate, it's not really that supportive. It's just you can get towards a teammate, you can run fast. And the ultimate is just like a defensive tool. And so that actually made just that update alone, where you can run towards down teammates and run to craft banners and stuff like that, that is a very good supportive tool. You get your teammates back into action. And I just wanted to kind of include Conduit because I do think she is in a good place right now. She doesn't require any buffs, she doesn't require any nerfs. I think she is just in a good place. As for the actual perks that got added in this update, I do think there needs to be a little bit of a rework and removing some of them. So if you guys don't know, there was 2 perks added to the support class. One of them got embedded, and that was the crafting banners. Anyone in the game can now go to Replicator and craft banners. That's now a feature for everyone. It's no longer yet like needing a support character to do that. And obviously because they removed that perk, they've added 2 new ones, but each of these 2 perks has like 2 sub perks. The first one being that you can heal twice as much with shield cells and syringes, which is insane. But also you can heal whilst walking around faster, so you can actually like kind of like go full walk speed whilst healing as a support character. The other perk is that when you do craft banners, you will have a mobile respawn beacon also be there when you craft the banners, and also whenever you have a person who died in their death box, there will be like a teammate who died, there'll be a mobile respawn beacon in their death box. And also when you revive someone, they'll be revived with regeneration and applied that'll regen their health up to full health. Now out of these 4 kind of sub perks, 2 of them I do think need to be removed. The first one being the heal speed, like healing and like moving around as fast as you do with the support characters. I don't really feel like that's much of a support perk. It didn't really feel like it when I was playing it. I'm like, why am I walking around faster? It doesn't make sense. First of all, and also it doesn't really provide much as well, really, because a lot of the time you can't just like slide and maneuver over objects to actually get that same kind of speed, if not faster. With like any other character. So yeah, it didn't really make sense. I don't really think it provides much, and I think also it's just like kind of like, why? So if they were to remove a perk, I do think this one would make a lot of sense, just because it just doesn't make sense. But another one that I think doesn't make sense in the future of the game and the direction that they are going is the crafting banners with the mobile respawn beacon, as well as when you get in the death boxes. And the main thing is that I think there should be a complete rehaul to actually respawning in general. I think, in my opinion, they should just completely get away with banner cards. Like, make it so they just completely remove banner cards. So that if a teammate dies, there's no timeout on any banners or nothing, which is something that everyone hates. There's no timeout on banners. They just die, and then if you go to a respawn beacon, you can get them back. Just as simple as that. That's it. That's just as simple as it is. You don't need any banner cards from the death boxes. You don't need to go to a replicator to craft them back. You don't need to get a mobile respawn beacon because you can just go to a normal respawn point and craft them, well, get them back there. I think it's a way easier system to understand, and also takes less time as well. And obviously because of that, we don't really need that perk where you get the mobile res in the replicator and the death box, because it's so easy to get people back that it's like you don't need to go out your way to go to a death box. You can just go out your way to go to an actual respawn beacon to just get them back straight away. So I do think we can remove that perk, to be honest, as well. So we only have 2 perks left, and I think they are pretty powerful, the 2 perks. But I do think they are powerful enough that it's like it's okay, and I do think they can stay in that fashion. And the main reason is obviously fast heal was an idea that I had, but obviously Lifeline has that, and also having fast heal that actually goes towards batteries, cells, syringes, everything. And so having it so you only get double the amount of heals from cells means, and obviously syringes as well, means it's only certain healing items that you actually get a benefit from. It's not everything. And so that really limits the actual use and viability of the ability. But something that I am going to point out right now as well is that obviously we have, every class in the game has a perk that has to do with Evo. And that is obviously, for the support class, it's always been the support bins. And that always gives you Evo when you unlock it. But the other perks, so the assault perk being the bandolier perk, where you have extra ammo in your inventory. And for this as well, the 2 new perks for the support class, there's something that's really interesting now that I've found out, is that now we have one of them 2 perks that's more like kind of like team-based, you know, reviving teammates and them being revived with regeneration. That's a team-based perk. And the other one is a little bit more selfish, such as the healing with twice the amount, with shield cells and syringes. That is a little bit more selfish, and that's obviously because they want to make it so the support character stays alive. And so with this direction, we can possibly see other classes get perks, a 3rd perk, like the support class, and it's following this kind of pattern where we have one that is specifically tied around Evo Shield and getting your team Evo. The other one is a team-based perk, just specifically for keeping your team alive or making sure your team has the right amount of information if it's the recon class, or making sure your team are all together if it's the controller class, or whatever it is. Something revolve around the team with one of the perks, and another one revolve around yourself, making sure yourself is okay. And so obviously you guys know that we are going to be getting a new character next season. I just want to touch on this a little bit, in that the next character, Artemis, is potentially either a recon character or a controller character. So I want to make some little suggestions for what might actually change, depending on if it's a controller character or a recon character in the next season. So if this character is a controller character, we could see a new perk emerge. I have made a concept of fortified for the controller class because I do see them as the kind of like tanky class, especially with the overcharged shield perk that they currently have when they are inside of the circle. I do think they need fortified, so I've said for a while, I think they need to remove fortified from 𝗬𝗂𝗁, Newcastle and Caustic, especially now since they are very, very powerful. So I do think they need to remove that perk from them characters, or potentially make it so them characters 𝗬𝗁, Newcastle and Caustic actually, well, not Caustic because he's a controller character, so you'll get it from this anyway, but 𝗬𝗁 and Newcastle, make it so they actually have the option to get that as one of their actual perks. But basically how I think this should work is, rather than just getting your fortified, I think you should actually get the fortified as obviously Rampart, Caustic, Watson and Catalyst, but also teammates that are nearby yourself also get that fortified perk. Now, I don't think it should be as strong as what it is right now with 𝗬𝗁, Newcastle and Caustic. I do think instead of it being 15%, it should be 10% less damage. But that alone will make you survive a lot longer and your team a lot longer as well. So if you are defending a building, your teammates will take less damage from people trying to breach into your building, and yourself as well. And so it does seem a little bit like a supporter perk, but there are a lot of blurred lines around support and controller and recon, because they all are kind of supportive classes. But for controller specifically, it's mainly about keeping the team together, and it's very good for inside the builds when bunkering down. Now, what if we have a recon character instead? Then I think we should have a lot of buffs in the class. A seer buff, obviously. We do actually need a crypto buff now as well, because crypto completely got wrecked recently with all of the nerfs that he got this season. And also as well, I do think they need to add Valkyrie's passive scan, because I still don't think she's a recon character, even though when they reworked her in the recon character class, and it doesn't feel like she's a recon character. The problem is I think when she's using her jetpack, she should get them triangles that she gets when skydiving, but when she's using her jetpack. And I think that's just the easiest way to make her really feel like a recon character. I know she does get the highlights, but only she can see them. No one else can. So I think having them green triangles when jetpacking would be very helpful, because your team can actually see them triangles and focus on the whole team and know their positions. Now, as for the additional passive for the recon class, because obviously we, want to try and theorize and see what direction this might go. If you guys know 𝗏𝗏𝗁 from Apex Legends Mobile, the character from that game, she actually had a passive where she was able to have a little visual indicator of audio. So all audio in the vicinity around yourself, it actually has a direction of which direction that's actually coming from. And that's going to be very helpful for a recon character to basically know where the audio is coming from. Because we have one perk that is obviously the survey beacon thing, where you can see everyone on the map. Then you're going to obviously hunt the team down. And we have this kind of like moment where you're like, you don't know where they are specifically in the building or whatever. Where this perk would become very useful to kind of like know whereabouts the audio is coming from, so you can kind of pinpoint whereabouts the team is located in the building or whatever. And then when you actually get into the fight, the final perk, which obviously they added last season with the scans when you aim down sights, that obviously becomes very useful when you're actually in the fight. Only problem is, I do think it's a little bit lacking right now, that perk. I think it's just a little bit of a buff for that perk specifically, is if you do aim down sights, shoot someone, obviously when you aim down sights you see them, but if you shoot the person, then you highlight that person to the rest of your team. I know that's kind of like Maggie's passive, and that's the big issue, is that it might seem like a copy of Maggie's. But I've said for a while that like Maggie should get some other second passive, especially with all the rest of her kit being like all about fire and stuff like that. I think personally she should have incendiary rounds, and that passive shouldn't have a highlight effect. It should just do like 1 or 2 additional damage after you shoot the person. For Maggie specifically, and so when you shoot someone as Maggie, whatever it might be, whatever gun it is, it does a little bit extra damage as they run away. Kind of like a thermite, but obviously not that much damage. Just ticking up to like maybe 5 extra damage. So if you got someone very low, chances are you might actually kill them with that additional little damage that you might do at the end. And of course, it only actually adds that damage after you stop shooting. But in this sense, that means that Maggie doesn't have her abilities stolen, like Lifeline in the past with Newcastle's shield. And Maggie actually gets more of an assault-based ability right there as a second passive in a way. As well as obviously the recon class getting a proper buff to the perk that they had before, where it's more kind of team-based, and then a new perk with that 𝗲_𝗁𝗲 passive circle thing where you can see where the audio is coming from. Of course, that'll only benefit the actual person that is the recon character, so that'll be like the selfish perk. But you can communicate that to your teammates, and so you can use it effectively to use it as a team-based perk. So you can see kind of like the strategy that I'm going here with. Obviously, the Evo base perk is the survey beacons. Then you have the selfish perk, which is the 𝗲_𝗁𝗲 circle audio thing. And then we have the aim down sights scan as well, and also when you shoot the enemies, it communicates that to the teammates. I do think this is the right way forward, personally, for perks. Just simply because it adds a little bit extra to the characters. That isn't like too insane. It's not like a completely new ability. I do think this season, though, the developers have actually made it so these perks are like entirely new abilities and like entirely new ability sets, because there's so much in the perks, and that's exactly why I think they should strip it back a little bit, remove some of them additional perks from them perks, and make it feel a little bit more like an actual class system rather than just like, oh, here you go, this character just has like 15 abilities, you know? I kind of would like it to be a little bit more understandable and a little bit more like, yeah, this is the evil perk, this is the selfish perk, this is the team perk. That's like, that would make a lot of sense to me. And that's the problem, there's no real structure with the perks, so you don't actually understand what it all means, and it's just a lot to learn. So I'm going to stop rambling here because obviously this is a very long video, but I just wanted to get all my thoughts out because obviously the meta has completely changed, and there are a lot of thoughts about what might happen next season, because the last 2 seasons have been very packed with meta changes and things like that. So what might happen next season with obviously, you know, new meta changes, what could actually happen? And the real answer is we don't know. It's all up in the air, especially how this season we really didn't know until last second, you know? We literally didn't know because it was so secretive. And so likelihood is that same thing will happen again. We won't know until the season drops what actually is going to happen. And in a way, it's kind of a problem because a lot of people don't like this meta that we have right now. And at least if we had a little bit of an input beforehand, these things could have been changed a little bit. But of course, I think it's kind of promoted that we have just such an insanely insane meta right now. But of course, guys, I do want to hear what you guys think about the perk system overall, the different characters, how the game should really go after here, because the meta has completely shifted. Where should the meta go? And also, what would you guys do to combat the meta that we have currently? What changes would you want to see? And also, what new class or what class in the game would you like to see new changes to? And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.